Welcome, everyone. Tonight, quickly make conversations more deeply fulfilling for everyone. Isn't that a great notion, Kathy? I'm Rick Wilkes from thrivingnow.com. This is Kathy Bartuli from theintimacydojo.com and a
Yeah,
co-creator with Thriving Now's projects on intimacy and trauma. So let's have a deeply fulfilling conversation tonight if we can.
it it makes such a difference. I run events in my home for practicing. We do cuddle parties and intimacy for the shy and awkward, and flirting for the shy and awkward. And some of the people come there. I live in Silicon Valley, so there's a lot of people that just don't know how to converse with each other. Like they're really good on their phones or if they're coding, but to actually be like talking with each other, there's some people that are really awkward. And I have so much sympathy and so much empathy for that because I grew up that way. Like I didn't know how to talk to people. And that really awkward, that like it actually keeps people away. And I watch them. They're like wanting so badly to connect with other people. They're lonely, they're hungry, and they're also so awkward. They don't know how. And so they kind of push and dive in and they run away. And it's like, even when I'm trying to hold space and help them, guide them, invite them into conversations, they're like, say something and they run away. And you're like, it's really hard to have a conversation when you're doing that, much less develop anything deeper. Like if someone wants to make friends or date. And I've been on dates where someone was just sitting there on the phone the whole time, like just like, like there was, or no eye contact. And like I would say, so what are you doing this weekend? Nothing. And I'm like, your turn to ask me a question. Like, there's no flow there. And this isn't about shaming anyone. This is just pointing out that some of us are really like, some of us could definitely fine tune this. And even if we're good at it, getting a little bit better can make friendships and relationships go so much smoother. The work the other day, I was just joking. I tend to be more outgoing when I'm at work. It's my job, so it's like I'm supposed to be outgoing. But this gentleman was standing there, and I was just joking about that he was in front of the coffee maker, and I said it's really dangerous to stand in front of the coffee maker about this time of day. And he laughed, and I obviously was joking, and we were just chatting. And later, I found out he's a new hire that actually has a lot of ability, a lot of influence in my group, like for what I do. And I was really glad that I'd started out an easy relationship with him. Like, I feel like that means whether, if we're at work and we have that kind of flow, someone can come to us and say, hey, this felt a little off, or can we do this differently? Versus if there's no relationship, it's like bad. Like there's a lot of finger pointing and no flow. And I think that's true in any, like whether a church or friendships or whatever we do. That quickly making conversations easier and more fulfilling it's the foundation of relationships.
Thank you. And I want to reflect that, we look at people that are really savvy. I remember all the marketing books and all of the things about what do you say and how do you break the ice and all of those things. And there was a piece missing for me. And so they were so much focus on the doing, and the why also always felt like I had an agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Like what they were saying was be clear with what you want from the conversation and go. And I think that if you're networking for business and that's your approach and you're working a room, that's a different kind of skill set. But what you just described was you're in a space, a workspace, and there are people in it, and you're going to be interacting with them. And by leading with something which is engaging, it recognizes that he was doing something. He was standing in front of the coffee machine, and it shared like, yeah, there's a lot of urgency around here around the coffee machine.
Mm-hmm.
It gave you a chance to relate and interact. There was some exchange of humor and bonding to me. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there are downstream positive effects of that, like you said, too. I think that those evolve naturally, for me, again, the things that were missing were like how to tune myself emotionally and energetically to
Mhm.
make me a richer, um, more receptive and brave um, tuning, and
Yeah.
then to have a context of um, like being curious about another human being. Usually, when that was talked about, it was in the sense of like how to break the ice to get what you want, and I think that was very hard for me. I never succeeded ever really at working a room. And I'm not a naturally outgoing, effusive person. Like some people that I looked at as role models are actually, it'd be like, looking at someone who's a very different personality, a very different style, and using them as a role model, as a shy, awkward engineer at heart, um, who also really loves and is curious about people. So we're hoping that welcome if you're shy and awkward, yay, you're in good company.
Yay, you're in the
If
right
you're if
place.
you're yeah, if you're generally are viewed as charming and outgoing, yay, welcome. We
Still, like,
love to learn
fine
from that.
tuning. Yeah, I'd like to add something about what you were saying. Really resonated with me. Like I read some of those books when I was a teenager. I found a box of books my dad had from college, and they were like how to get your own way and how to influence people, and like you were supposed to go find someone and like if I met Rick, my agenda is to get in his business and to build a relationship so he'll do something for me. So everything has to come back to this quid pro quo, and I could ignore people. And I've actually I'm micro famous, I guess, in some communities now. Like there's people that know who I am in the sex educator and intimacy fields. And I'll see people doing it. They'll either do it to me or someone else. We're having a conversation and they're kind of looking around to see who's more famous that they want to like, or more entertaining. And I'm like, there's no exchange here. Like, you're not really with me. And they're like talking about their business and just kind of pushing it at me. And I'm like, this is not what I want. What I've learned to do, and this has worked for me. I can't go out with an agenda in terms of like, I'm going to get something. I can go out with the agenda of offering something.
Yeah.
So my thought is that most people are somewhat lonely and scared. And I found that I had a really good friend tell me that some of the more famous people never get invited because everyone's intimidated by them. And so one thing I've learned to do is I just invite a lot of people to things. I like to invite groups, like create groups when I'm at a social event. But I also make sure to extend the invitation to people I think won't ever say yes. And I'm surprised how often today I texted someone that I met at a conference who is a big name, like someone people recognize in a lot of fields. And just, hey, we talked about doing something for shy and awkward people. I really love how you role model that they can be outgoing and you stand for that. And if you're ever interested, I would love to shoot some video with you on that. And she said, yes, when do you want to do this? But I don't think it was because I ever tried to get her. It was because I was inviting her to things, and I was like, I try to offer a little bit of warmth to people. So I get really caught in my head if I'm trying to get people to like me or like make something happen. I can be the stupid, like I'm like not working. But if my goal is to offer a little bit of warmth, like the guy that was standing in front of the coffee maker, I know like 3:30, everyone's kind of feeling a little bit like we work hard. I know everyone's feeling a little sluggish. And so I wanted to make them laugh. I wanted to give a little bit of warmth or brightness or silliness. And I think people don't often feel acknowledged or seen. So my goal wasn't to we ended up talking for a couple minutes, but that wasn't even my goal. It was just to offer a little bit of a smile, or even if it's at me, like, I'm being silly or ridiculous, it's okay. Like, this person now feels like one person today saw them and feels a little bit like, oh, I'm not alone. So I can do that all day long, most days. And there's days I can take care of myself and not try.
So let's take a moment and ground, because I think what you just said is the first bullet point that we said we were going to talk about in this and do some tapping around is being present. There's kind of a neutral quality of like dropping in and being present.
Yeah.
And what I heard you say is that, oh, I'm going to be present with warmth.
Yeah.
So, little tweak for us. What would you like to be present with? Let's all take a moment. And if you imagine a context where you'd like to have more fulfilling conversations, it could be at work, it could be at a group or a circle that you're a part of, it could be with someone that you care about. And imagine that you have this palette of emotional energies, right? Warmth is something that's that's one of the things that you can offer. And um, but think about the other possibilities. What are some other possibilities that come to mind for you, Kathy, that you offer in your presence in certain contexts?
Playfulness, um,
Yeah.
appreciation, just a sense of like you're not a like hey, like when I first started at this job I'm in, I tend to want to when I'm at work. I tend to be shy outside of work, but at work, I want to acknowledge people when I'm walking by them. Good morning. How was your day? How was your weekend? Really
Hmm.
bad. You know, like just even silly things like the weather. Wow, it looks like it's gonna rain. Um, is just some way to like an acknowledgement that you exist. And I noticed that a lot of people didn't do that. They would just walk by each other like in their own world. And I noticed now that because I at first I was like, maybe I should be like them. Like I don't nobody's greeting each other. But I just kept doing it because it felt right to me. My body was like, no. And even if they didn't always acknowledge me back, I'd be like, you know, I'd try to like sometimes they just walk by me and I'm like, wow. But I think they were just so busy and so caught up in stuff. And now, like, I notice I'll walk down the hallway and like people are like, "Hey, Kathy, good morning." Like they greet me back. Like I had to break that pattern to create something different. Um,
So, what do you want to offer with your presence? There's a little chat window if you're here live. Um, Kathy mentioned warmth, playfulness. I sometimes like to offer solid safety. So if
mm,
I'm walking along a trail, right, and let's say there's a woman walking by herself coming toward me,
mm-hmm,
right? So, like, if I was really curious about her, that might feel threatening, right? So
yeah,
my choice is to just be real solid and kind of acknowledge. I love that offering acknowledgement.
yeah,
Like I'm an acknowledgement of, good morning.
mm,
And it's not, and to me, while I'm open to a conversation, I let the openness be like this way rather than hi. So
mm-hmm,
here's a context where me as a man walking alone on a trail, I'm choosing to offer. And what's interesting is that sometimes the person will stop and ask a question or respond back, and sometimes they don't. And this
mm-hmm,
is where our point about, yeah, even though you may be nervous or awkward, by getting clear about the presence that you want to offer, you can practice staying solid in that. This can
mm-hmm.
take some good breathing. When I go by someone and they just like act like I am not even there,
It's not fun.
it's not fun. And here's what's helped. After they're passed, I might tap and say, "Oh, I wish they'd acknowledge that I even exist." That doesn't feel good and you can feel it in your body. I used to feel it really intensely in my throat and heart, like, what's wrong with me? I might have even tapped, like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? And as that quieted down and I went back to being present with myself, present in the walk, present in the room. I would sometimes go in the middle of a meeting, go to the bathroom and just take a couple minutes in the stall if I'm feeling activated by something.
Mm-hmm,
And what I've noticed is that when I do that, then I can also be present with compassion. That
mm-hmm,
there are people that really have they're earlier on the path than I am in terms of feeling calm and confident and
mm-hmm.
being able to have a good conversation. And that's one of the other things that we can choose is to offer a bit of that.
Mhm.
Um, I'd like to go to the next one. We mentioned getting curious.
Mhm.
So, um, how do you manage? cu- So, I've had people where I wasn't sure if they were curious or they were an interrogator.
Oh,
How do
um,
how do you manage? I know you're a very curious person. You're really interested in people that that have something going in their world. Um, how do you manage that in conversation so it doesn't feel like you're just interrogating them?
one, I try to be present with myself in the moment. I think that some people use rapid fire questions that can come off as interrogation as a way to deflect and keep people away. So I might ask
Could you
them,
say more
like,
about that?
so if I say, "Hey, what'd you do today?" "Oh, that's great. What are you doing this weekend?" Cool. That's fun. That sounds great. Who are you going with? What are you doing?"
Oh
Um,
yeah.
you
Oh
can
my
come
God.
across
I'm
different.
already tense.
Yeah, there's a little bit of like, stay away. I'm going to throw these questions at you. And I think that the other side of that is I could be like needy and I want to find out about you because I feel like I'm stuffing it in a place of me that I think will make me feel better. So, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, who are you going with?
Oh,
Like I'm trying to get something from you. Um, versus if I can stay grounded, we talked about being present a little bit. We've talked a lot about that in other calls too, but I think that always bears reminding because I think, even people that do meditation and tantra their whole life, they're constantly going deeper with the presence in the moment. So part of that is just feeling your feet on the ground, feeling your butt in the chair, being in the now. Present literally means present time in the now. Notice what your body is feeling and being centered in yourself. I think that the analogy I use is like two people. I tend to either want to do this or this. I don't like to be this. So or sometimes I'll want to do this or this. I
mm,
don't want to just be equal with them as we are. I want to lean in and try to get too close, or I want to lean back and get too far away, or I want to have power over or under. And I think humans in general do that, or go to this like we're deflecting. We're not okay. Here's two people just being with each other, as we are in the moment. That's being present. And if I can be in my body and in myself, and I can go, hey, I'm curious about you. You seem like a really neat person. What are you going to do this weekend? Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. Are you going with anyone fun? And I'll often word it that way so that I'm not asking for names. Like, are you going with anyone fun? It gives them a chance to say names if they want, but they could just say yes. If I say, who are you going with? Like with Rick, I'd say, who are you going with? Because I know his friends, like we're really close. But if it's someone I don't know at work or something, they may not feel safe, like, or may feel too intimate to share names or whatever. Like, are you going with anyone fun? Gives them a chance to, oh yeah, my best friend and I are going, and like sharing details, or they can say, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. They get to share. There's room for them to share little or more as they go, and just kind of, there's no pulling. It's just like a genuine wondering about this person. Like, who is this person? What's important to you? And I think when I'm in that, I ask better questions, and it's not just like, oh, the weather's kind of bad. It's like, how do you like to spend your weekends? They're more philosophical questions, and there's room to kind of like, what gets you excited? Like what, like, you know, what I ask this question in interviews all the time. Like, why do you love coming to work? What about your work makes you happy? And if they say nothing, I'm like, oh, that's fabulous. I do not want to hire you. Like, I want people that are there because they love it. And I want to have people that are close to me that are like, I like to get curious with people too. But like, just it's not, I'm not pulling at the other person. I'm not trying to get something from them. I'm not trying to push them back. I'm not trying to interrogate them as a power thing or be obsequious as like they're more powerful. Just meeting them as a person, breathing into my body, and just asking my body, like, what do you want to know about this person? What are you curious about? And then when I do that, it's, the questions will be naturally deeper and more like, wow, Yeah, I saw this thing on the news the other day about how this man had to choose between some, like he had to rescue his wife or his kid, and he managed to get them both. But it made me really think, like, how do we choose things like that? And what do you think? Like that, I think that naturally makes conversations deeper because I'm like trying to find out who is this being here? Like, what matters to you? And I don't know if that makes sense. It's just like it gets us away from the shallowness of how many kids do you have, which is nice. But like I do ask people about their kids and their families and stuff, and but it can get kind of shallow really quickly if we don't go a little deeper. And asking people what means something to them is a really good way to like the right people are going to go, oh, this is a juicy conversation. Let me get my coffee and sit down.
And Gene asked, "What would you do if you really really didn't want to tell you?"
I totally respect it.
Yeah.
So there's no set amount of time, and I used to think there was. I thought I had to have a certain amount of time in a conversation for it to be successful. Um, but literally, if I'm just being present with myself and inviting the person to play, and they don't want to play for whatever reason, it's like I offered, they said no. Okay, cool. Let me see who else I can go talk to.
Hmm.
Um, and I found that sometimes people are very shy, and just because I invited them to play 2 or 3 times, and they're just like no, and then later on they're kind of they I for some reason there's a guy at work that he's very very shy, and for some reason I went up to him and another guy who the other guy is always kind of mouthy like in a fun way, and I said, oh look, two troublemakers. And the shy guy was so tickled that I compared him to this more outgoing guy. That every time he sees me, he's like, "Gotta watch out for us troublemakers." And it's so cute. Like I love it. But we don't know what's going to touch someone, and we don't know how much. Like I just listen to my heart. My heart is if I'm tuned to genuinely adding value to people, adding a little warmth. And some people I can feel like stay away. And Rick and I talk about body yes, body no. It's literally what I'm listening to. Does my heart want to play? Oh, they're not playing back? Okay. Or no, my heart doesn't want to play with them.
And that's our third bullet point about being real. I wanted to just add our little tidbit here about curiosity.
Yeah.
Um, in authentic relating games and in the circling community, these are particular groups that are arising around how do we encourage a deeper, more fulfilling kind of attitude. And so, one of the things that I choose to offer in my presence sometimes, not all the time, not with all people, but is a desire to get to know their world, not even necessarily to get to know them. So, like, hey, what's the weather like in your world? It's kind of a weird question. What do you mean? Is your world cloudy with a chance of rain? Is there torrents running through? Is it beautiful and sunshiny with fairies sparkling on the wet rocks? What's it like? And if if I have someone that wants to be revealed and get to be known, and this goes back to some people don't want to be known. It is not safe for them. They're much more likely to pepper us with questions and not really leave a lot of opening for reciprocal knowing. And that's a feeling. But if I want to know someone's world, then if they share something about, yeah, I'm going to the movie this weekend, I might be like, yeah, is a movie a special occasion thing for you, or is it part of your lifestyle that you've designed? Notice I'm throwing in some things. There's openings there. Um, if somebody wants to go deeper and be seen, be known, then they can come forward. In fact, in authentic relating games, one of the things was such a room full of strangers, didn't know any of them, and we paired up. And one of the questions, the invitations was, um, what would you like me to know about you?
Mm-hmm.
And if the person would say, I would like you to know, and they'd share something, the answer back was, thank you. Is there more? And talk about a really interesting, awkward question.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed everyone would stop for a moment because they'd shared something intimate, and then is there more? And again, this is a particular container, but that attitude of you've just shared something with me, I got your world a little bit more. One of the people said, "Wow, um, tell me more."
Mhm.
There's a slight difference in energy of tell me more. Like if I'll say that, if I really feel like the person is wanting to say more and all they really need is an encouragement. Um, yeah, is there more to the story that you'd like to share? That you'd like to share? Leaving a soft way of doing that. And that's blending curiosity with an intention, not even to get like all the details about them, their context for that. But if you get a sense for what world they walk in, that can really help you know how to engage with them
Yeah.
in your space.
Um,
So,
yeah, no, I think that's really good. I love the questions. Someone wrote so sometimes I think people don't want to talk to me in a social setting. I feel like I don't belong. What do I do? I don't have this issue at work. And I think it's just such a beautiful question, and I so appreciate your vulnerability in sharing it.
mhm.
Um, if you're present in the moment and really paying attention, it's called reading the room. There may be times when you find that I went to a tantra workshop one time, and I was having lunch with this very lovely older woman and older man who had just I just met them at the event. They were separate, and I was just having really thoughtful conversation. I was like, "This is so fun! Like we have another hour after lunch. Do you guys want to go somewhere and talk?" And they kind of looked at each other, and there was a lot of attraction there. And they're like, "No, we want to be alone." And I was like, "Ooh, like I don't like." We had a great lunch, and they were welcome to that. But they were like, "We want to like we're flirting with each other. We want space." And I felt so awkward, but I realized they were really cool about talking and speaking up, and I was really glad. And I was just excited because it was a good conversation. We don't always read the room perfectly. We don't always notice, and it can be awkward. The biggest thing for me is one, realizing that sometimes we're going to not read it really well, that people want space and we don't know. Um, and all we can do is try and make sure to separate beliefs that we got when we were little from now. So if we can be present without the filters of I don't belong, and the beliefs of not belonging, which may seem so strong. Um, the thing is, we're all a little bit awkward, and there's very few people that just fit perfectly all the time.
Yeah,
So
I certainly don't.
yeah, can we do a
The
little?
other thing that comes to me, yeah, I'd love for you to lead some tapping in that. And um, I encourage people when they feel like they don't belong in a social setting, there's reading the room, but then there's also like, do I have anything in common? You can start with, oh, I'm a human. I have emotions. I got up today. I'll go to bed tonight. Um, you start stacking up some things, but sometimes you run out of commonality. Sometimes that can be a push. Like, I'm actually afraid of interacting with someone that I actually have something in common with and really like engaging. If that's your thing, then it's sort of the breakout of your shell feeling that you've got. And maybe you don't have it at work because it's a very different context. But if you're going to social events where you actually have like some core interests, the social part is brought together by some kind of shared purpose, shared interest, shared life experience or something. If you're in that kind of context, I do much better because it gives me something that is common ground. If I'm at a cuddle party, I have to keep reminding myself the people that choose to go to cuddle parties have something in them that wants to break free and have healthy, nourishing touch. So the fact that we're sharing this space by choice, even paying for it, makes it something that we have in common. And tuning to that, then you can know whether the blocks are predominantly your own kind of anxiety. Does that I don't know if that's always the case, but it's what comes to me right now that I've applied in my life.
Yeah, and I think that's great. Let's just do a little tapping. I think we all have times when we feel like we don't belong. So if you can tune into that feeling. For me, it's like this ache in my heart, this longing, like this angst. Like I want so much to belong.
Mm,
Um, and just take a nice, slow, deep breath into whatever the feeling is for you.
mm,
And if you feel resistance, you don't want to feel it. I don't blame you. It's not a fun feeling. But imagine it's a younger you crying out for help. And the deeper you can go here in the presence, in the space we've created, the deeper the healing can be. And we also encourage you to take care of yourself. But like, if you can open up a little bit and take away some of the shell that we put on to protect ourselves from feelings sometimes, we can actually be present with that part of us.
yeah.
Karate chop, even though I don't belong.
Even though I don't belong.
And it feels awful.
It feels awful.
And I feel like I might die.
And I feel like I might die.
Genuinely, I feel like I might die.
Genuinely, I feel like I might die.
My primitive brain is pretty convinced I'm going to die
My primitive brain is pretty convinced I'm going to die.
because I need to belong
I need to belong
all the time,
all the time.
every moment.
Whew, all the time.
They must love me and adore me every moment.
They must love and adore me every moment.
Top of the head. My primitive brain kind of thinks that
My
sometimes.
primitive brain kind of thinks that sometimes.
Eyebrow, and I send love and appreciation to my primitive brain.
I send love and appreciation to my primitive brain.
Side of the eye, it's sorry, yeah, we skipped a spot. Side of the eye, it really is trying to help me.
It really is trying to help me.
Under the eye, my primitive brain loves me so much.
My primitive brain loves me so much.
Under the nose, it's fighting to keep me safe all of the time.
It's fighting to keep me safe all of the time.
Chin, thank you, primitive brain.
Thank you, primitive brain.
Collarbone, thanks for all your love and all your work.
Thank you for all your love and all your work.
Under the arm, you kind of rock.
You kind of rock.
Top of the head, maybe we belong together.
Haha, maybe we belong together.
And maybe we don't have to struggle to belong to everyone all the time.
And maybe we don't have to struggle to belong to everyone all the time.
Take a nice, slow, deep breath. And I think that not only is there a primitive brain aspect of it, there's also wounded parts. Like, I remember going to kindergarten and I had been brought up on a farm and I hadn't been socialized well. Like, I knew a lot of stuff that adults taught, but not a lot of stuff that kids knew. And there were all these girls from town who had been playing together and going to preschool and stuff. They knew the same songs, they knew how to dress, they knew the TV shows. And I didn't feel like I belonged. Like there was a really big, I came in kind of worn out clothes. We were very poor. I sometimes smelled like the barn a bit because we had to work before school and it was too cold in the winter to take a bath before it was just too cold and we didn't have time. So I didn't fit in. I felt very outside and very alone very much of the time. I was also a lot smarter than a lot of them and liked my intellect. And I think some of them had already been taught that girls should not be too smart. It's not that they weren't smart. It's just they didn't show it.
Right.
So I didn't fit in. I didn't belong. And I retreated into books because I didn't know how. Like I had no skills or ideas how to build this relationship. And it just felt like they were a different species. And if any of you have had feelings like that, it's really painful. It's like, what's wrong with me? There's this group of cool people over there, and I kind of want to be part of it. I want to be invited in. I want to feel like I'm part of that. But again, if you go over like obsequious or trying to power over or deflecting or pulling away, like it's hard for anyone to get to know you. And kids are not always very kind. So if you have wounds around that, we can definitely tap on things and help release them. But also just imagine taking that younger kid's hand and saying, hey, little Kathy, I know in the past you didn't fit in and didn't belong, but these are different people. And we can just approach them as we are and see what they want. And then we're at least not alone. We have that younger self there with us. And we can see, like, genuine, like, I've learned to be vulnerable, and I've had people look at me like, "Who are you?" Or like, "No, we don't want you." And I'm like, "Oh wow, that says a lot about you." Actually, I was being friendly, and it's okay to say no. I don't want to spend time with you. But if they're kind of mean about it, it's like, you're either having a bad day or you're kind of a mean person, and I don't want to get to know you either. So um, it's just practice, I guess. And I'm sorry. I wish I knew a quicker way to get there, because it took me most of my life, and I've literally most of my life. I've been trying to figure this out since I was like 5.
Yeah, me
And
too.
yeah.
And we see progress, which is why we're sharing tonight. We want more of this. And as one of the people wrote, I feel like that all the time. I feel like I don't belong. I feel isolated. We to me, we're in this place where survival hasn't has we have enough abundance to be able to, quote, survive on our own. There are people who live all by themselves. That is not something that people did when there were huts and when water was something that you had to think about for hours every day, and food and preparing and things. So we're not being pulled together into survival tribes, but we want connection. And yes, there's a primal need, but to me, our artistry, our desire to connect and flourish together is so strong. I'd love to do some tapping. Love to, meaning I feel like we all could use this, the what's wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
I continue to tap on that when I bump up against a situation where there isn't an opening, or I don't feel like I'm found a place to plug in. My whatever reason, it will typically hit us in an energetic, emotional way. In the same way that if you stepped in cat poo, it's you want to clean it off. If this kind of interaction with another human being is a bit like stepping in poo, it's gonna, like, oh, it's something that is worth cleaning up in our energy field, so we don't end up contracting and being left with this solid belief like, oh yeah, I don't belong. And if that's where you are, um, let's try this. What's wrong with me? And how intense does it feel in your body? What's wrong with me? Even say it out loud if you can.
What's wrong with me?
What's wrong with me?
What's wrong with me?
Notice what happens in your brain. It can get really foggy or really sad.
Well, the thing is,
Some
our
people,
brain tends to answer that question. Like, even if there
yeah,
is anything wrong, it's going to come up with something.
right. Which is where tapping can come in.
Yep.
So start tapping, side of the hand. What's wrong with me?
What's wrong with me?
That's my question.
That's my question.
Seems like a question I really need the answer to,
It seems like a question I really need the answer to,
because I'm not getting what I want.
because I'm not getting what I want.
I'm not getting the connection I want.
You're not getting the connection I want.
And I'm desperate for more belonging.
And I'm desperate for more belonging.
And I feel isolated.
And I feel isolated.
What's wrong with me?
What's wrong with me?
Top of that. What's wrong with me?
What's wrong with me?
Eyebrow. What the fuck is wrong with me?
What the fuck is wrong with me?
Side of the eye. What is wrong with me?
What is wrong with me?
Under the eye. I don't feel like I belong.
I don't feel like I belong.
I don't belong with them.
You don't belong with them.
Jen, I want to belong.
I want to belong.
Collarbone. I really want that feeling of belonging.
Oh, I really want that feeling of belonging.
Under the arm. What's wrong with me?
What's wrong with me?
Top of the head. I choose to get present anyway.
I choose to get present anyway.
So again, come back to your presence and see if you can allow yourself to, again, if you wanted to offer warmth, if I don't feel like I belong, it may not be that I can get to something like curiosity.
Yeah, it's
It
true.
may be that what I'm offering is my willingness to see with eyes of compassionate humanity, maybe a little kindness. In a room of people, there is someone who is suffering, who's had shit to eat all day long. And I mean just like emotional, gut wrenching stuff. And they may not be showing it.
Yeah,
So,
there's a lot of people out there that are hurting.
mhm.
This is not working to chat. Um,
I'm not sure what you mean, T, but thank you for the love you.
do you want to see if anyone wants to come forward and do some tapping, or you want to?
Um, yeah, I'm feeling like the technology part of that, which sometimes is fluffy. Um, I was in the ER with a friend all last night, and I was in the ER for 8.5 hours today, and so I'm feeling like engaging in this conversation here. I'm
Okay.
definitely open to feedback if anyone has feedback on how this works for them and how it doesn't, so that we can improve it. Um, I'd like in the future to have time that we can maybe get a few volunteers to be um, pre-volunteered. But
Yeah,
is that okay with you?
that's fine.
Okay. Um, would Are you drawn into a particular tapping at this point? We have about 15 minutes.
Well, I think that if I'm going to have a good conversation, and what's coming up is I have all these things between me and the other person. I don't belong. I don't fit in. They don't want me. It's really going to be hard to have a conversation through that and I do this a lot. I project all over the other person that they're judging me. They may not be judging me. If we can
Mm,
just do some tapping on being present with what is rather than the stories we told ourselves and the energies we have.
yeah, that goes to that third point about being real,
Mm-hmm.
getting present with what's present,
Mm-hmm.
realness of it.
If you're willing, take a nice, slow, deep breath.
Thank you, Kathy.
If you make noise when you exhale, it tells your primitive brain that you're actually safe. It rattles it vibrates the vagus nerve. If a bear was chasing you, you would not take nice, slow, deep breaths and make noise. You would be hiding in the bushes, not making a sound. So again, that's another nice, slow, deep breath. I'm curious.
I'm curious.
Who is this person in front of me?
Who is this person in front of me?
I've painted a lot of stories on them.
I've already painted a lot of stories on them.
I've decided they are judging me.
I've decided they're judging me.
They don't want me here.
They don't want me here.
They know I don't belong.
They know I don't belong.
They know I'm isolated.
They know I'm isolated.
Those bastards.
Those bastards.
Wait, this person didn't actually say a word.
This person didn't actually say a word.
I'm just making up that story all by myself.
I'm so good at making up that story all by myself.
While I admire my creativity,
And while I admire my creativity,
what if I were just real in this moment?
what if I was just real in this moment?
The truth is, this person might be judgmental,
The truth is, this person might be judgmental,
but I don't have to judge me for them.
but I don't have to judge me for them.
I'm going to let them do all the work.
I'm going to let them do all the work.
Top of that, hi, person.
Hi, person.
Eyebrow, it's really hard to just be here with you.
It's really hard to just be here with you.
Yeah, my brain wants to tell all kinds of stories about us.
My brain wants to tell all kinds of stories about us.
And yeah, I think he wants to keep a big distance between us.
I think it wants to keep a big distance between us.
And then it was, I think it's scared of you.
I think it's scared of you.
Chin, but I've got my brains back.
I got my brains back.
Collarbone, I'm just going to be here with you.
I am just going to be here with you.
Under the arm, I'm going to feel my fear.
I'm going to feel my fear.
Top of the head, and I'm just going to be present with you.
And I'm just going to be present with you.
Nice deep breath. So one of the things I do is a part of the dojo is I have play spaces where people can come together, and a dojo is a place where people can play and practice in intimacy. Dojos play and practice in intimacy. So I throw cuddle parties. I have events where people can come together and learn the art of sensual touch or other things. The real thing they're learning is that other people aren't dangerous and they can just be present. Like, we give them exercises, they learn skills, but one of the things we do constantly is we encourage people to split up and meet new people. We're like, okay, turn to the person on your right, share. Turn to someone on your left and share. Crawl across the room, find someone new to share. And we're teaching them that they can just be with the person in the moment. Even though they might be feeling afraid, lonely, scared, they might want to project all over the other person. We're constantly trying to bring them back to their body, let them breathe, and then teach them how to, give them excuses to interact with others, so that fear, the resistance kind of goes. I kind of think of it as rust. Like, I can build up rust very quickly. If I have a long weekend where I'm not interacting with humans, I feel rusty when I go back out. I'm like, scary humans everywhere. What are they thinking? And I just have to go, oh yeah, rusty. Little WD-40, squirted on the joints, a little oil. I think the more we practice, the easier it gets to just notice, hey, that person didn't actually say anything, and I made up this whole story. Look how creative I am. But it's not a really authentic way to interact with this person. I don't have a clue what they're like. They're reminding me of something. There's some story like, oh, yeah, I had a friend who was bald, and he was very judgmental. So this bald person must be judgmental too. Wait, that's how prejudice get born. That's bullshit. Hey, you bald man, are you judgmental?
When it comes to Brussels sprouts, yes, I am.
I feel that way about okra.
Mm-hmm. So we're both.
So we have something in common. We don't have to eat Brussels sprouts or okra. Or I'll eat your Brussels sprouts and you eat my okra.
No, I won't eat your okra. But I'm sure that, I bet if we went around this room, we could find someone to eat our okra.
Or maybe a puppy. We could borrow a dog and feed it them.
I had a dog once that was a Hoover like that. Yeah. Should have called him Hoover. Yeah. So, thank you.
Yeah. And I'm being a little exaggerated and silly, but literally I'm having conversations like that. Maybe not quite so silly, but I want them to stick for you. But like, I'm literally having conversations with myself. You're judging that person because they look, okay, that's a pretty person. So you're all tense and you're doing the, like, instead of this, you're doing this. Like, they're pretty, therefore I'm less than. They haven't done anything to indicate that other than being pretty. They were born that way. It's not their fault. So stop being prejudiced. Like, go over and just be nice to them.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then if they act like a complete ass, I can be like, wow, you were born pretty on the outside, but you're not so pretty on the inside. Thanks so much. I'm going to play elsewhere.
I think, so we talked about getting present, getting curious, and being real. And part of that realness is getting out of the story so that we can be in an engagement, where we can offer presence and warmth, a desire to get to know their world. Now, before the call, we were talking about your kind of inner guidance system, whether it's at work and you're interviewing someone or at an event. What if, as you're engaging, well, first of all, what are some of the early signs that you get that you're wanting to take an exit that are real and authentic for you? They're like, okay, it's that ugly person inside that really isn't going to nourish you, and you're not wanting to engage in more vulnerable shares with them.
Yeah.
How do you know that that's happening? And then how do you make a graceful exit?
One of the things I've really had to learn is the difference between my body guidance and my own stories about the person.
Okay.
If someone is conventionally pretty, especially a woman, I have lots of stories, and I will like feel resistance and I'll feel tense. And one of the things that if I can get really present with my body in the now and just be present with my body and go, what is that? What am I actually feeling in my body? I'm pretty calm actually. I'm not noticing anything in particular. But if I let my head chime in, oh, I feel really tense.
Oh,
And that's practice. Like the more you practice it, the easier it gets. So like if you expected a magic wand, I wish I had it. I don't.
yeah.
Um, but if I start feeling some kind of dis-ease in my body that's not associated with the thoughts I'm having, I really tune in. Like, is this a stretching moment for me where I want to, kind of learn something from this, or do I want to step away? And I let myself, like, I give myself permission to choose. There's not a right or wrong. We're just dancing with people. And if I choose to leave right now, I might find out tomorrow that person's not giving me that feeling. It might be tonight they have something going on, or there's something in the room. Um, what we teach at cuddle parties is we just a polite thank you when we're done with the conversation. So it might be, oh, that was a really fun conversation. I'm going to go to the restroom. I'm going to the bathroom. I'm going to get something to drink. It's okay to make an excuse. I also say, wow, that was really fun. I feel complete. And I'm going to go find out who else is here to discover. Or I have, that's just really honest. Or, wow, like people to me sharing is really vulnerable. So if they're willing to share and engage with me, there's a genuine, like, wow, thank you. Thanks for chatting for a bit. Maybe I'll talk to you another time. And just being okay with the fact that partying can be really awkward. Like, it gets to be awkward. We get to be awkward sometimes. Like, oh crap, I did that really badly. But look, I took care of myself. I practiced. My muscles are a little bit stronger now. So to me, that's how I do it. It doesn't mean it's right for you, but or I think my partner's waiting, looking for me. I told him I'd come back in a few minutes, or I told that person I'd have a conversation with them. I need to go check on them. There's all kinds of things you can say and do. You don't have to always be deeply authentic in the sense of, my body feels very uncomfortable around you, so I'm going to leave. You can. There's nothing wrong with that. But you might not, there's a certain politeness that is also nice to create.
An interesting, just so people know that when people take exits, it doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing.
Mhm.
Um, at dance and in other conversations, I'm finding that sometimes I'm so excited about what just happened
Yeah.
that I need to ground myself. I mean, one of the advantages of having a lot of emotional energy is that you can get really excited, like to the point where it's not the presence that you want to offer. It's not the energy that maybe the space holds. And so, like, I've had conversations where I was like, thank you. I really needed this kind of engagement. I'm
Yeah.
gonna I'm gonna take a break, and I really hope we get a chance to connect again sometime soon.
Yeah. And sometimes stepping away and then re-engaging actually can build a deeper relationship over time versus like, oh, you're cool. I'm gonna like, like, oh, just like being relaxed, like, oh, that was fun. I'm gonna dance over here and here. Oh, look, we met up again, and we're gonna engage a little bit.
Yeah, and there are people that treat that really cool, like, they just pretty much easily release, even if, and you really can't even tell that they're enthusiastic. I am way too transparent to not, if I'm enthusiastic, I can be solid. Like, I'll go back to solidness before I'll start talking because I don't want to like vomit appreciation on them. And so from that deeper place, I can appreciate and then release. And I will say that as someone who wants to build trustworthy long-term relationships, that's one of the most fulfilling conversations, are those ones that are like, there's some there here.
Yeah.
There, in you, in me, and the resonance between us, there's something that's really good. And if I demonstrate, one of the things I want to demonstrate is freedom. And as you said, some people, as soon as they get a whiff of something that they're wanting,
Yeah.
that they will like lean in. If you want to have really deep growing relationships, demonstrating the capacity to take a step back without fleeing or flinching or like glomming, that is, I've been told now for people that have been friends with me for a long time that one of the things that really helped early on is that they could tell that I had a lot of enthusiasm, and I was in I was able to hold that and allow them the freedom to move about their life,
Hmm.
because that is
Yeah,
one of
that's
the
again, when I'm inside myself, I can be lots of enthusiasm, but inside my body, not trying to go and attack somebody else.
and that actually I have to work against my sometimes work against. I have to acknowledge that there's a part of me that in the enthusiasm is not wanting to say goodbye.
Yeah, and
But you're
that's
not
human.
really
Humans.
saying goodbye. You're dancing in a space of freedom where what you're wanting to offer is that, is this still a yes for you? Is this still a yes for you? Is this still a yes for you? Thank you. To now take a break
Yeah.
and savor. I've even said I'm going to
Uh,
savor this dance. I can tell I'm going to savor this time we've had together. Thank you.
yeah. I think it's so hard when we've been hungry for a long time
Yes.
and we don't know if another nice cheesesteak's going to come floating around. So can we just tap a little bit on that?
Yeah.
Nice slow deep breath.
Mm.
Karate chop. Even though I'm very excited
Even though I am so very excited
and I want more of this,
and I want more of this,
more and more and more,
and more and more and more.
the truth is there is enough.
The truth is, there is enough.
And I'm getting better and better at this kind of engagement.
And I'm getting better and better at this kind of engagement.
Even though I'm excited
Even though I'm excited,
and I want to hold on real tight
a part of me wants to hold on real tight
because I've been hungry.
because I've been hungry.
It's okay to be with my hunger
It's okay to be with my hunger
and my excitement
and my excitement
and invite the universe to guide me.
and invite the universe to guide me.
Top of the head. I do get excited.
I do get excited.
Eyebrow, I like people who can get excited.
And I like people who can get excited.
Side of the eye, I can invite people from my excitement.
I can invite people from my excitement
Under the eye, while I keep my feet firmly on the ground.
while I keep my feet firmly on the ground.
Under the nose, it's okay to dance with my excitement.
It's okay to dance with my excitement.
And it's okay to be with my hunger.
It's okay to be with my hunger.
Collarbone. And I know I'm getting better and better at tending this garden.
I know I'm getting better and better at tending this garden.
Under the arms, there's lots more to eat.
So there's lots more to eat.
Top of the head, I thank myself for that.
I thank myself for that.
Nice, slow, deep breath.
And if you're here, thank you.
Yeah, it's a tough conversation.
It is, and I know that the depth of it, it is someone who has something deep to offer that even considers something like this engagement.
Uh-huh.
A lot of the things that isolate us are around our emotional energy, and looking for spaces that nourish that make it easier. Bars suck for me. Loud concerts and things are places where you're trying to have a conversation over the sound of something else is doesn't work for me. Knowing yourself and looking for sweet spots, being open to places where there are more and more of these popping up, things like cuddle parties, authentic relating, circling. We'd love to hear your ideas about where you found. Church socials have been some place for people. There are community activists that collect trash and they have great conversations as they do it.
Yeah.
Things like, what makes this a meaningful activity to you, for you? That opens up a conversation while you're doing something that fits your mission. Make sure it's something that you can see yourself doing. It's core to you. The more things that we do that are core to our heart, the more that we have in common with other people that want to do those same things. Sometimes
Yeah,
it's different reasons that bring us into that dance, into that mission. And that's a beautiful thing too, not assuming that everyone's there for the same driver. And as we get to know each other's world, then that emotional world, we start being able to share from our gardens in our emotional world with each other in nourishing ways, and enjoying that so much.
yeah. I really honor, like, thank you. I love what you said, Rick. I think I love that we can come together with 142 other people and share and dance in the energy and um, help each other forward. Like your questions help me tune to where something I wanted to clear out. And each time we're getting a little more present, a little more real, and that authenticity, that realness, when
Yeah.
we can be grounded in ourselves, that's very attractive. People genuinely like to be around that. When it like sometimes they're like, "Oh, that's really nice," but I'm scared. But there's like it's attractive. So you are creating yourself to be the person that you want to be. Like, and thank you for that courage.
So we can be reached at support@thrivingnow.com. That goes to both Kathy and I. Kathy at theintimacydojo.com. And her website has a wealth of information about intimacy and some programs.
Sexuality,
Yep.
touch, and yeah.
Mhm.
And Rick is offering sliding scale coaching right now,
I
which
am.
is he is the most amazing person. His coaching saved my life. It started me on this journey. At the time, I just wanted to be able to sleep through the night, and
I
after a little bit, I
remember.
was yeah. Um, I was just so inspired by you. I got certified myself. So if you want help, yeah, thanks, Noreen. He is the best. If you're struggling with something, he's so intuitive and caring, and I really encourage you to reach out and ask for a session with him and clear these things out because having connection that's deep and meaningful is so life giving. It's so fulfilling. And if you're having trouble with that, please reach out, get some help. You deserve that kind of connection.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Kathy. It's such a pleasure to co-create for this and
As
this
always,
deeply fulfilling conversation. And thank you all.
good night, everyone.
Bye.